Machiavelli understood something profound about human nature, something that most people overlook even today. Silence is not merely the absence of speech, it is the most refined expression of power, a subtle force capable of reshaping conversations, negotiations, and even empires. Throughout history, the most formidable leaders were not those who spoke the loudest, but those who mastered the strategic art of saying nothing. In a world obsessed with attention, where everyone is desperate to speak, to post, to be heard, strategic silence becomes a radical act of dominance. The leader who reveals his thoughts becomes predictable. The general who announces his plans invites defeat. The negotiator who cannot endure silence loses before a single word is spoken. What Machiavelli saw, and what modern minds have forgotten, is that power thrives in restraint. In The Prince, Machiavelli notes that men are often judged by the eye rather than the hand, because most people can see, but few can understand. Everyone sees what you appear to be, yet almost no one perceives your true nature. This idea applies directly to the calculated use of silence. When a powerful figure remains quiet, they cultivate an aura of mystery, of unpredictability. Silence becomes a mask, one that provokes curiosity and fear, but this is not passivity. It is deliberate weaponized silence. Most people are profoundly uncomfortable with it. It creates tension. It disrupts the rhythm of conversation. It opens a void that demands to be filled, and in that desperation, others reveal themselves. Their insecurities, desires, ambitions, all poured out in an effort to escape the pressure of unspoken words. Those who speak first often reveal too much. They expose strategy, emotion, and weakness. The one who waits, listens, gathers information, measures intent, and chooses the precise moment to respond. In silence, there is observation, and in observation, there is dominance. Machiavelli was clear in his warnings. Every word spoken becomes a potential liability. A statement made in haste can be weaponized by others. A careless comment can bind you to a position, revealing your strategy before it's necessary. This is why he advised rulers and power seekers to speak rarely, and only when the outcome was already secured. Strategic silence is not simply avoidance. It is tactical delay. In Discourses on Livy, Machiavelli observes that the wise leader lets others speak first. He does not rush to share his own thoughts, but instead allows others to reveal themselves fully. This creates an informational imbalance, a power asymmetry. While others expose their positions, the silent strategist remains unreadable, gathering data, calculating. This vacuum created by silence is not a void, it is a trap. Modern leaders have forgotten this. They fill every channel with noise, tweets, statements, live streams, revealing far more than they understand. They give away their intentions before the game has even started, and in doing so, they lose the upper hand. Those who truly understand power speak only with purpose. They speak when it benefits them, when it destabilizes the opponent, or when the silence has already done most of the work. A well-timed pause can carry more weight than 1,000 declarations. Silence is not weakness, but refined calculation. Machiavelli also wrote that a powerful person must learn to be a great pretender and dissembler. This means, in communication, mastering restraint. Not every idea needs to be shared. Not every emotion must be expressed. Those who blurt out their thoughts act like soldiers charging into battle without a plan. Occasionally, they may succeed by luck, but more often they're outmaneuvered by those who move in silence, only striking when victory is assured. Silence breeds mystique, and humans are naturally drawn to what they do not understand. When someone stays silent in a room full of speakers, others begin to assign them qualities, wisdom, confidence, control, even if nothing has been proven. Meanwhile, those who fill the silence expose their doubts, fears, and anxieties. This is the psychology of power. Silence shifts the dynamics. It changes perception before any action is taken. Machiavelli understood a foundational truth about power. The one who knows more than they reveal always controls the outcome. The one who speaks more than they understand gives up that control without realizing it. In every negotiation, conflict, or relationship, the party that manages information holds the leverage. Silence is not just a pause, it's a posture. It creates time. The person who speaks first commits to a position, but the one who waits retains adaptability. They can observe, adjust, and exploit the moment. They can identify when emotion overtakes logic in the other party. They can watch the opponent unravel. Machiavelli cautioned against haste. "Nothing wastes so much as haste," he warned, especially when it comes to communication. Speaking too quickly exposes intention. It strips away the element of surprise. It gives the opponent a chance to prepare. Silence preserves the element of surprise. Like a general who keeps his troops hidden until the battlefield favors him, the silent strategist withholds information until it becomes a weapon. What remains unsaid is often the most dangerous. Consider how many people have sabotaged themselves with impulsive words, with angry emails, with unguarded posts, with confessions that never needed to be made. These verbal outbursts become liabilities, proof of motive, evidence of strategy, or simply vulnerabilities waiting to be used against them. In The Art of War, Machiavelli emphasized that no enterprise is more likely to succeed than one concealed from the enemy until it is ripe for execution. This wisdom applies equally to communication. A concealed plan retains potency. A private intention remains unpredictable. Every secret you keep is a weapon your enemy cannot counter. But this only works if you can master the discipline of silence. Silence protects your strategy. It maintains your options. It allows you to observe patterns, study responses, and calculate. Precise action. It is not defensive, it is offensive. It is preparation for a strike so effective that the opponent has no time to react. The most successful communicators are not the most vocal. They are the most intentional. They speak when the silence has already done the groundwork, when their words are positioned to reshape perception, to command attention, or to shift momentum. True power often operates in the psychological space between perception and reality. Machiavelli understood this gap intimately. He noted that while everyone sees what you appear to be, very few experience what you truly are. This principle defines the power of silence because it allows you to shape what others see while concealing who you really are. Silence becomes a mirror. Others project onto you their assumptions, their expectations, their fears. They fill in the blanks with their own stories. Meanwhile, the silent strategist remains untouched, undefined, in control. In conversations, meetings, and negotiations, most people rush to fill silence. It makes them uneasy. They interpret it as awkward, even dangerous. So they talk, explaining, justifying, over-disclosing. They reveal far more than they intend. But the Machiavellian thinker doesn't fear silence. He creates it. He uses it intentionally. And in doing so, he controls the pace, the tone, and the flow of the exchange. This is not passive observation. It is active dominance. Silence gives you the ability to watch, to listen, to analyze. When you are speaking, you are not learning. When you are talking, you are not observing. But when you are silent, every sense is engaged. You become a collector of intelligence. Those who dominate through silence have trained themselves to do so. They don't seek validation through words. They don't need to prove their intelligence by speaking. In fact, they understand that every unnecessary word is a loss of leverage. Machiavelli saw virtue not in expression, but in discipline. Those who cannot control their speech cannot control their fate. They become easy to read, easy to provoke, easy to manipulate. But those who speak with intention, and only after silence has served its purpose, retain control over both the narrative and the outcome. Silence also gives rise to anticipation. In the absence of words, others begin to hang on your next move. When you finally do speak, your words carry weight. They are amplified by the tension that came before them. This is why, throughout history, those who spoke least were often the most feared. In an age of constant updates, social media chatter, and reactive speech, the one who masters silence stands apart. They become mysterious, powerful, in control, not because they dominate every conversation, but because they dominate the emotional landscape of communication. Silence is not merely a delay, it is a decision, a weapon, a form of dominance. Those who truly understand power use silence to force others into movement, to extract truth, to shift the dynamic of an interaction without lifting a finger. The most skilled practitioners ask a question, then wait. They do not fill the void. They let the silence stretch, uncomfortable, pregnant with tension, until the other party breaks. And in that breaking, they expose themselves. They reveal their bottom line, their strategy, their fears. Silence has done what pressure could not. Interrogators, elite negotiators, and legendary leaders have all relied on this tactic. Because the side that speaks first often gives away the most. Machiavelli knew this. In politics, in war, in diplomacy, the ability to wait, to endure silence, was the mark of superiority. There is another dimension to silence: authority. Those who speak rarely, who weigh their words with care, are perceived as commanding. Their silence communicates restraint. Their restraint communicates power. In contrast, those who speak constantly, who cannot resist filling the air with noise, quickly lose their impact. They become background sound, easy to ignore, easy to dismiss. Machiavelli advised the powerful to speak infrequently, but when they did, to ensure their words had weight. This is truer now than ever before. In a culture drowning in communication, where every thought becomes a post and every reaction becomes content, attention is the rarest currency, and silence demands attention like nothing else. It also creates space for analysis, for clarity, for understanding. You cannot study your opponent if you're speaking over them. You cannot hear subtext if you're rushing to answer. But when you pause, when you listen, when you let the silence breathe, you gain access to information others miss. You gather the data that later becomes your strategic edge. Most people will never master this. They're too busy trying to be heard, too consumed by the fear of irrelevance, too addicted to the sound of their own voice, and with every unguarded word, they chip away at their power. Machiavelli wrote that everyone sees what you appear to be, few experience what you really are. Silence widens that gap, allowing you to project strength while concealing weakness. The silent figure becomes a canvas for other people's projections, a puzzle, a force, an unknown. And the unknown is always more powerful than the known. This is the rhythm of power. Knowing when to speak and when not to. Understanding that the first to move is often the first to fall. That speech is often reaction, while silence is often preparation. There is immense control in holding your tongue, in choosing not to respond, in letting others reveal themselves. It is patience, weaponized. It is self-mastery, externalized. It is strategy, made visible. Those who cannot resist the impulse to speak will always lose to those who can. Because the ability to wait, to withhold, to observe, to endure, these are the traits of a strategist. These are the habits of those who shape outcomes rather than react to them. Even in moments where words seem essential, silence often proves more effective. The negotiator who says nothing gains more. The leader who doesn't rush to answer commands greater respect. The adversary who withholds reaction gains control of the field. Machiavelli knew that the appearance of strength could often be more decisive than strength itself. And silence is the ultimate illusion of strength. It makes others assume. It makes others fear. It makes others speak, and in speaking expose themselves. In the end, silence is not a passive act. It is the purest form of power. And in a world obsessed with noise, those who master silence don't just survive, they dominate. So now ask yourself, do you speak because it serves you, or because it soothes your discomfort? Do you remain silent to control the moment, or because you have nothing to say? Have you learned what Machiavelli understood so clearly, that silence is not the absence of power, it is its most refined expression? See you in the next video.